everyone, hope you're all doing well. This flow is going to be for any beginners to yoga, and also for anyone who really wants to practice a slower flow or a slower practice, and maybe just to connect back to some of those fundamental alignment cues or posture cues when we're coming into quite familiar poses that we tend to see in most yoga classes. So if you are completely new to yoga, this class could be for you. Or again, as I said, if you want to just practice a really gentle, simple flow. So I will be giving a lot of cues and a lot of alignment focused tips through this class. So listen out for those. There's always going to be modifications because everybody is different. So yeah, just listen out for those and know what feels good for you in your practice. So we are going to start in a comfortable seat at the top of your mat. I'm going to say facing forward, just so you can see me for this first part of class. So, sitting onto your sit bones. Now this straight away might be a little bit uncomfortable for some. So if this is you, then you can always have, I've got a cushion and a block handy here. I should say if you do have a block or a cushion, please make sure you've got it here. They're good props to use through this class. If you don't have a block, then just grab maybe a chunky book or a couple of chunky books that you might like to use as props. But yeah, if you want to come onto a cushion, just to lift your hips a little bit higher than your knees, it just means it's a bit more comfortable for this seat. Now this is called Sukhasana, which literally translates as easy pose or easy seat. So you should feel nice and comfortable here. And we're going to come to close the eyes, or you can soften your gaze, whatever suits you. So for this first part of this class, we're just going to take a few deep breaths just to tune into our practice, connect with our bodies. We're going to connect our mind with our body and our breath. And really notice how you feel today. So as I mentioned, every body is different, every body is different. So no day is the same on our mats. It's important to recognise those changes. And we can do that by really tuning into our bodies, our breaths, our minds. Bringing a sense of calm, a sense of awareness. So with that said, let's take a big inhale. And sigh out, exhale. As you sigh it out, just allow your sit bones to root down a little bit more into the earth or your cushion. As you inhale, see if you can lengthen through your spine. So chin is parallel to the mat. Crown of the head lifts slightly up towards the ceiling. As you exhale again, just melt everything into the mat. Release any tension here. Root those sit bones down, drop your shoulders away from the ears. We're going to do that a few more times. With every exhale, you're just letting go of any expectations, any preconceptions that you have about this class, about your practice. Knowing that whatever shapes, whatever postures you arrive into today on your mat are the right ones for you. This is your practice, your body, your mind, your breath. It is unique to you. One more big breath here. Once again, just letting go of anything that doesn't serve you in your practice today. And then slowly flicker open the eyes. We're going to bring the hands to Anjali Mudra, which means heart center here. Just bringing your thumbs to your heart. Take a big breath in. And an exhale. Bowing your head to your hands. Just take a moment here to set an intention for your practice. Reminding yourself again, there's no expectations to come into any poses. You just go where you can today. But maybe finishing that statement, I am, finishing it with how you want to go about your practice today. I am stable, I am strong, I am confident, I am calm. Or any others of your choice. Take one more breath. And exhale, release the hands onto the knees. Now if you're on a cushion, you can release that from underneath you. We're just going to come to lie onto our backs. So release your spine onto the mat, keep your knees bent, and just check that your lower back is flat onto the mat. So your core will start to engage here immediately as you draw your lower back flat. So you can check that by bringing your fingers underneath your lower back, press it into your fingers and really find that connection. We're going to stay here as you inhale. As you exhale, draw your knees up towards your chest and then wrap your hands around your knees and give yourself a little hug. Rock and roll side to side. Just release out any tension you're holding in your lower back. Allow your shoulders to be flat on the mat. Release tension through the jaw, the cheeks, the forehead. And then when you're ready, keeping a hold of your right knee, you're going to extend your left leg long on the mat. So keep squeezing that right knee into your right armpit. If that's too much on your left hip flexor already, then just bend your left knee and bring the sole of your foot onto the mat and just keep squeezing your right knee down. So again, shoulders stay flat on the mat. Spine is long, neck is long. We're going to stay here for 2 more breaths. As you inhale, maybe slightly release that knee. As you exhale, squeeze it a little bit more down towards the armpit, so it's almost scooping around the side of the body. This is called Apasana, literally waist pose. So it's a really nice one to kick-start our digestive system. Good for circulation. So detoxifying the body, getting rid of any waste products in our body. We take an inhale here. So massaging that ascending colon. Exhale, squeeze that knee in towards your armpits. And then come back to center as we inhale. Just going to swap over those knees. As you exhale, interlace fingers around your left knee and extend your right leg long on the mat. Options here again are to bend that right knee and place the sole of your right foot on the mat. Make sure both shoulder blades are flat down, neck is long, chin is slightly tucked so we can keep that long neck. And again, with every inhale, maybe release a little bit on that knee. Exhale, squeeze that knee down towards your left armpit. So here we're massaging descending colon. Again, kick-starting digestion. If this is your morning, then this is a really good pose to do. But at any point in the day, it's just a really nice calming, detoxifying, circulating, if that's the right word, pose to do. We'll take one more breath here. Exhale. And then draw both knees back over your hips. So knees are parallel, or right over your hips. Shins are parallel to the mat. We're going to take an inhale and again just connect your belly down towards your spine. So really switching on the core and taking away that space underneath your lower back. As you exhale, slowly lower your feet to the mat, keeping that connection. So core is really switched on. We're just going to come into a little bridge pose here. So your ankles are in line with your knees, so directly under, and then knees are no wider than your hips. Tuck your tailbone a little bit more, so we're lifting our sit bones slightly off the mat just to engage the core once again. Take an inhale. As you exhale, press into the feet and start to lift the hips off the mat. Now you can place your hands down on the mat here. Press into the hands, press the palms nice and wide, fingertips spread. And you can stay here, or if you want to, you can always walk your hands underneath the body, come onto the outer edges of your arms and really press into the outer edges of your hands as you clasp underneath the body. We're going to stay here for a few breaths just to feel that back body switch on. So really squeezing the hamstrings, pressing through the soles of the feet. You'll feel the hamstrings switch on. You might feel this in the calves. Glutes are engaged, so slightly here, just to lift those hips a bit higher. Tailbone still draws now towards your knees, so keeping that spine long as you actively draw your chest towards your chin. Staying here for an inhale. Can you maybe lift your hips a little higher? As you exhale, untuck the arms if you've got the bind. Otherwise, slowly everyone rolling down one vertebra at a time, back to your lying flat position. And then we're just going to draw the knees up towards the chest. Bring the hands behind your thighs and start to rock and roll all the way up to a seated position. Now you might not be able to rock and roll, that's fine. Just make your way back up to that Sukhasana. Remember that easy seat at the top of your mat. Take a breath here. And then as you exhale, we're going to roll over the knees. I need to scoot back a little bit. Coming into our tabletop position at the centre of your mat. So, in your tabletop, your hands are directly underneath your shoulders. Fingers spread really wide. Knees are underneath your hips. Toes are untucked, pressing through the tops of the feet. Now you'll notice that my back isn't like this, so I'm not dumping all my weight down through my spine. I've got an active engagement through the core. You can always bring one hand to your belly just to check that you're engaged there. My crown of the head is drawing forward as the tailbone wants to draw back. So we've got that length through the spine. In every yoga pose you'll find that there is a balance between that push and pull motion. So we're always looking for that balance between strength and ease in every pose. So really pressing through your hands, pressing through the tops of the feet, lengthen the spine here. We're pressing and pulling. Take one more inhale. Stay for the exhale. We're going to work through some cat and cow. So as you inhale, lift the sit bones up towards the sky and slowly drop the belly towards the mat, but keep the belly slightly engaged. We're not loosening through the core, we're just lifting the tailbone and belly naturally drops. Your chin lifts off the chest, shoulders draw away from the ears. This is your cow pose. As you exhale, press into the hands and the tops of the feet. Lift the belly towards your spine and tuck your tailbone under. Almost like drawing hips towards your shoulders. Really arch that space between the shoulder blades. This is your angry cat pose. We're going to roll back through into cow. Inhale, remember the engagement through the core. As you exhale, press into the earth. Round chin to chest, hips forward. Arch the space between the shoulders. We're going to do this one more time. This is a really nice pose to do to wake up the spine. Keeping our spines healthy is really, really important for posture, for energy. Take one more inhale and then come back to center as you exhale. We're going to come from this tabletop position into a variation of child's pose just to help you with your downward facing dog, which we're going to come to in a moment. So you're going to walk your hands a little bit further forward. And as you exhale, keeping your hands straight, I want you to tilt your sit bones up towards the sky as you start to lower your chest and your head down to the mat. They're not going to touch the mat, but you're just going to get that motion of lifting your sit bones up towards the ceiling. Can you see that my tailbone lifts and the crease of my bum wants to shoot towards the sky? My hands are spread nice and wide, arms are long. almost like ears are in line with my biceps here. So my forehead's not touching. There's strength in the arms, but I'm just lifting the tailbone up towards the ceiling. So finding that strength in my foundation, that stability here, but then the ease and the lightness comes from my hips lifting, my tailbone lifting, sit bones lifting. Let's stay for one more inhale. As you exhale, now send your hips all the way back to your heels and then walk your knees out a little bit wider on your mat. Big toes can touch at the back. Keep reaching or sliding those hands forward and allow your forehead to come to rest onto the mat. This is Balasana, child's pose. Now, you may find that your hips cannot come to your heels, and that's absolutely fine because you might just have really tight quads or maybe tightness in your lower back. If you have a cushion, you can always place the cushion onto your heels and just to help lift your hips a little higher, but you're still going to get that relaxation here as you allow yourself to just melt forward. Be heavy on the mat, hips sink back. And we'll take a few breaths here. So in your child's pose, we're really trying to find length in the spine and then space across the tops of the shoulders. So almost wrap your triceps under and press your armpits down into the mat. You'll find that that activates this pose, but it's almost relaxing in the sense it creates that space through the top of the body. It allows you to really breathe deeply here. Take one more breath. And then as you exhale, look forward. We're going to draw ourselves back up into our tabletop position. Just remove any cushions if you've got them on your heels. We're coming into our downward facing dog. So just like we did before, walk the hands ever so slightly further forward than your shoulders. Can you see how wide my hands are spread on the mat? Index fingers pointing to the top. We're going to root down and ground down through the index and thumb knuckle especially, but all 10 fingertips press into the mat. Toes tuck behind you. Belly lifts towards your spine. Lift the knees off the mat and slowly as you press into your hands, keeping your arms straight, send your belly back towards your thighs. Now, with that same lift we had before, with our knees on the earth, you can start to lift your hips a little higher, or your tailbone up towards the ceiling. But you can always keep a bend in the knees if you need. So we're not expecting everybody to have straight legs immediately, especially if this is your first downward facing dog, not only ever, but maybe of the day. So just know where you are in your body. You'll notice my spine is nice and long. So instead of hunching forward like this with my shoulders over my wrist, we really want to press through the hands and allow the chest to draw back towards your thighs. Neck is nice and long. Take any weight out of the neck or tension out of the neck by just releasing here, maybe shaking your head yes and no. And we're going to stay for 2 more breaths. Inhale. As you exhale, maybe you can lift your sit bones a little higher. Remember the crease of your bum trying to be the highest point of your pose. As you lower your heels a little bit more towards the earth. Don't worry if you're not there yet, keep your knees bent if so. Take one more breath here. And exhale. Look forward and start to tiptoe your feet all the way to the top of your mat. Now if you need to bend your knees, you can to walk all the way up. We're going to meet in a forward fold. So feet want to be hip width distance apart. Now you can test your hip width by bringing 2 fists together, knuckles facing forward, and place them in between your feet. And then you know you've got your hip width distance. And then when you're here, you can again bend your knees as much as you need to draw your belly towards your thighs. So you want to have that connection. Doesn't matter if your knees are bent. You can also have, if your legs are really tight, a block or a cushion underneath you for more support. Otherwise, allow your hands to be resting on the earth. Take the tension out of your neck and your shoulders. And then as you exhale, Maybe you start to lift those sit bones again a little bit higher up towards the ceiling. Again, doesn't matter if your knees stay bent, that's absolutely fine. Go with what suits your body today. So if you're really tight in the calves and hamstrings, you may just stick with your knees bent. Otherwise, with every exhale, maybe you lift those hips a little bit higher, but keep that connection between belly and thigh. So can you see I haven't taken my belly off my thighs? I'm just slowly lifting my hips up higher, nose drawing towards my knees. Now you can stay in this for so long, because it's a really nice stretch for the backs of the legs. But we're not going to be here for too much longer, unfortunately. Take one more breath here. Exhale. And then slowly send the weight towards your heels. Keep your knees bent as you lift your belly and roll one vertebra at a time, all the way up to standing. And that should feel really nice as you release that through those legs. Draw your shoulders back and down away from the ears. We're coming into our Tadasana, mountain pose. So feet can stay hip-width distance, or if you want to bring big toes to touch and a slight gap between your heels, that's another variation for this standing posture. So we're going to tuck the tailbone, draw the belly in. So we're not arching through our lower back, just like we did in tabletop. Really engaging through the core, tucking that tailbone, spine is long. Arms reach down, fingertips reach towards the mat. Shoulders draw down away from the ears. Neck is long, chin is parallel with the mat. Crown of the head reaches up to the ceiling. We're going to take 3 breaths here. So find that you are really rooting firmly through your feet, but you know where those points of contact are, those rooted points, if you want to think of it like that. So your big toe knuckle, your little toe and your heel are really firmly pressing into the mat. Maybe there's a slight lift of those inner arches as you roll to the outer edges of your feet. So find that you are grounded, steady, supported, but the crown of your head is lifting towards the ceiling as though you're really light here in your upper body, even though your lower body is drawing you down to the earth. Take one more breath. And exhale. Bring your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Take an inhale here. And an exhale. Reach the hands towards the sky. Gaze up to your fingertips, keeping that belly lifted towards your spine as you fold forward. See if you can do it with a flat back. Taking a micro bend in the knees if you need as you fold down into that forward fold again. This time your feet are together, maybe if you drew your feet together. Halfway lift now as you inhale. So here you can have your hands onto your shins for these first few lifts as you draw your shoulder blades together, lifting that belly, spine is long. Now chin is going to tuck gently towards the chest. So your neck is long, crown of the head drawing forward as your hips press back. Stay for an inhale, you're probably feeling this down the backs of the legs as well. As you exhale, fold all the way down. And we're going to step back into a plank pose. So your right foot will go back and then your left. Now there's always an option here to drop to your knees. In our plank pose, we want to make sure our hips stay in line with our shoulders. So we don't want this, that's almost a halfway downward facing dog, and we also don't want hips down here. We want core lifted. We're drawing again, almost like when we did our our angry cat pose. Because we're arching that space between the shoulders, we almost want that tuck of the pelvis, the hips towards the shoulders. Hands are spread nice and wide. Crown of the head draws forward as those heels press back. So legs are engaged, calves are engaged, back to the knees, lifting towards the ceiling. Squeeze the thighs, take one more breath. As you exhale, lower the knees down. Squeeze the elbows into your side body as you lower your chest and chin. So elbows are bent, Chin is on the mat. Untuck the toes, slide the hips down. We're coming into cobra pose, Bhujangasana. Slide your chest up and forward. So hands have not moved, they haven't slid forward or back on the mat. Coming through our chaturanga, they stay directly under my shoulders. Elbows squeeze down towards my hips. In this cobra pose, you want to make sure you're pressing through the tops of your feet, pressing your pubic bone into the mat, belly is lifted. Stay here for an inhale. As you exhale, fold down. We're going to do that 2 more times, just to get that connection with breath and movement. Inhale, press pubic bone down, squeeze elbows towards your hips, shoulders down away from the ears. Exhale, lower down. 1 more time. Make sure we're pressing through the feet. Inhale. And exhale. Tuck the toes. We're going to lift the belly towards your spine, press into the hands, come up onto the knees, find tabletop. Widen the knees, big toes to touch. Hips back to your heels, we're not here for long. Child's pose. Take a big inhale. As you exhale, slide forward. Come back, knees underneath your hips. Tuck the toes. Press into the hands, lift the knees, slide the belly back towards your thighs, then start to roll your sit bones up, downward facing dog. Take an inhale and an exhale. Look forward. We're going to step our right foot in between the hands at the top of the mat. Now, if this is you and you step here, then that's as far as you can go. That's fine. Just use your right hand to lift your right foot and bring it to the top of your mat. It's all about that lift in the belly. So just going from downward facing dog again, but lifting the heels up, lift the belly towards your spine, knee to chest, and lightly we step that foot in between our hands. We're going to lower the back knee down. Untuck the back toes, come up onto the fingertips, either side of that front foot. So you'll notice that coming up onto the fingertips means you need to lift your belly away from this right thigh. We're not dumping the weight down into that right leg. We're really engaged through the core, long through the spine. From here, press into the top of that left foot. Lift the pelvic floor, so squeeze those inner thighs together as you sweep those hands up, coming into our low lunge. So that activation through your pelvic floor, that lift, we call Mula Bandha, and the engagement of the core makes it easier to lift your torso up to come into this low lunge. Now you can always have your hands up to the ceiling, or you can place your hands onto your right thigh. Just make sure that your right knee is centered over your right foot or your right ankle. So we don't want this knee too far forward, we don't want it too far back. We want it nice and centered, and then our tailbone tucks. So we're finding that stretch on the left hip flexor. That activation of squeezing those inner thighs together will square off your hips, but also strengthen this stretch on the left side. We're staying for 1 more inhale. As you exhale, plant the hands down, either side of that front foot. Lift the back knee by tucking the back toes and step back into your plank. You can always drop to your knees if you need. Stay for an inhale, going straight to downward facing dog as you exhale. Finding that lift again of the sit bones. So every downward facing dog, remember, press through the hands, long through the spine, tailbone lift, sit bones lift. Take 1 more inhale and an exhale. Lifting those heels, look forward. Again, we're stepping that left foot to the front, but remember we're lifting the belly and stepping lightly all the way up. If you need to use your left hand to draw that foot up, then you can do so there. Inhale as you exhale, lower that back knee down, untuck the toes. Actively press through the top of that back foot. Come up onto the fingertips. Notice that you need to engage the core to keep your spine nice and long and to take the weight out from dumping on this left thigh. Stay for the inhale. As you exhale, squeeze and lift that pelvic floor. Use the core to help you rise up, coming into your low lunge. Once again, check that that left knee hasn't come forward or back. It's right over that left ankle. Squeezing your inner thighs together draws that right hip forward. Left hip back, squaring off here. A nice hip flexor stretch on the right side. Stay for an inhale. And exhale, frame the front foot with both hands. Tuck the toes, lift the back knee. Step back into your plank pose. Lift the belly, lift the backs of the knees towards the ceiling. Shoot the crown of the head forward, press the heels back. Stay for an inhale. As you exhale, knees. Squeeze the elbows into your side body as you lower chest and chin. Untuck the toes, lower the hips. Slide the chest forward, cobra. As you exhale, come all the way down. Lift the belly, press into the hands, tuck the toes. Press back to your tabletop, knees wide, send the hips back to your heels. Child's pose, Balasana. One breath here. Exhale. Come back up through tabletop, inhale. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, send the hips up and back. Downward facing dog, exhale. Look forward, tiptoe the feet all the way to the top of the mat once again. Coming into our forward fold, you can take those fists in between your hands to measure the distance here. Remember to release through the neck and the shoulders. Bending the knees, connecting belly towards your thighs. This time we're paying attention to the weight in our feet. So making sure that you're rooting down, just like Tadasana, that mountain pose, where we're standing tall. Root down through your big toe, little toe, and your heel. Maybe lift those inner arches slightly. And feel that weight spread evenly through your feet. Stay here for an inhale. And an exhale. Walk the feet together underneath the body. Big toes to touch, slight gap between the heels. Halfway lift, inhale, lift the belly, hands to your shins. Flat back, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Crown of the head shoots forward, hips draw back. As you exhale, forward fold. We're going to step the right foot to the back of the mat, allowing that right heel to drop down and that right foot to be at a 45-degree angle. We're setting up for warrior one. Left knee is over your left ankle. That is not going to move. Just like we did before, come up onto the tips of your fingers and lift your belly to engage the core. Lift through that pelvic floor, and as you inhale, press through the feet evenly and reach the hands up towards the ceiling. This is your warrior one. Now, bringing your hands to heart center just for these first few breaths to sort out our legs. Now, then you might find that you are perfectly okay with this stance. If you find that your right hip is drawing back, then just step your right foot out a little bit wider on your mat. And you'll notice that you can draw that hip a little bit further forward. We want to have square hips here. The aim is to try and get square hips. Make sure, so you'll notice that my knee hasn't gone forward or back. That knee has stayed over my left ankle. So you might need to widen your stance. You might need to shorten your stance if you're really tight in this back leg, because we're rooting down through the outer edge of that right foot. We're lifting up the inner arches of both feet. And we're going to stay here for an inhale. As you exhale, reach those hands up again towards the ceiling. Option to stay here, or maybe you take your gaze up, bring your palms to meet. Stay for an inhale, really root through both feet. Firm foundation, nice and light through the upper body, take an inhale. As you exhale, hands down to the mat. Look forward, lift the back heel, step forward into your forward fold. Halfway lift as you inhale. Exhale, forward fold. We're going to take the same pose on the other side. So plant the hands down, step your left foot to the back, turn the toes to about 45-degree angle. It changes obviously for each person, but we're going to start off with this angle, so we'll see how we go. Lifting up onto the fingertips, lift the belly, lengthen through the spine and use the core, use the lift of that pelvic floor as you reach the hands up and square the hips. So again, if you want to take that left foot out slightly to the edge of your mat, you can do so. Notice my right knee doesn't move. If you want to draw your left foot up, you can always shorten your stance. Totally up to you. Depends on the stretch or the leverage you've got in your left leg, flexibility in your left leg. Squeeze the glute, lift or draw that left hip forward, right hip back. Press down through the outer edges of your feet, lift up the inner arches. Stay for an inhale. As you exhale, maybe you take your gaze up towards your hands, maybe your palms meet. Relax your shoulders down away from the ears. One more breath. And exhale, hands through heart center. Fold all the way down. Lift the back heel. Look forward, step forward into your fold. Take an inhale here. And slowly as you exhale, we're going to lift the heels up, come up onto your tiptoes and slide your bum down onto your heels. So you can stay here, or if you want to take a little balance, so you're balancing on your fingertips. Otherwise, lifting your belly, squeezing up through that pelvic floor, bring your hands to your heart and balance here. You might just play around with this. Maybe you've got more balance than me. My calves are pretty tight today. So we're going to stay here for an inhale. And slowly we're going to lower the heels down and come to roll all the way onto our backs. Squeezing knees into the chest. So again, if you want to come down at any pace that suits you, absolutely fine, you don't need to roll back. You can lower the hands down and sit onto the bum. But when you're there, squeeze your knees into your chest. So once again, we're going to come back to that Apasana pose, waist pose. So nice, such a nice name, isn't it? Draw your right knee in, your left leg long. Again, you can always bring the sole of that foot down. You might notice you've got a little bit more space now, especially in those hip flexors after our lunge. Take an inhale and an exhale. Keeping that right knee bent, draw it back over the centre, or right knee over your hip. We're going to keep the left hand on the right knee, take the right arm out into a T shape. Then we're going to slowly draw that right knee across the body into a little supine twist here. So allow that knee to drop to the left side. Keep your shoulder blades on the mat and take your gaze over your right shoulder if it's there for you. Otherwise, keep your gaze up to the ceiling. This is a nice twist for the lower spine. Breathe deeply here. And then when you're ready, drawing that knee back up over your right hip. We're coming into half happy baby. So, sole of the foot will flex up towards the ceiling. We're going to reach for the outer edge of your right foot with your right hand. If you need to lift your shoulders to come up, then just bring your hand down to behind your right knee to keep your shoulder blades flat on the mat. If you've got the outer foot, you might also want to take, or instead take your big toe. It's totally up to you, big toe or outer edge of your foot. Keep your left hand onto your left hip. So ground through those hips, make sure tailbone stays onto the mat. And take a few breaths here, just opening up through your right hip. Stay for an inhale. And exhale. And then slowly release that right foot long on the mat. We're going to draw the left knee up towards your chest. Give yourself a hug again, drawing that knee down towards your left armpit. Shoulder blades on the mat. Take an inhale. And an exhale. Then we're going to take supine twist on this side. So left knee over your left hip, right hand on the knee. Open up the left arm into a T shape. And then draw that left knee over towards the right. But make sure that those shoulders stay onto the mat. So if your shoulder lifts, then you can always just roll that knee back slightly. You can always place a block underneath your right knee if you want more support. Again, your gaze is over that left shoulder or up to the ceiling. Take one more inhale. And then come back to center as you exhale. Half happy baby on this side. So flexing that foot up towards the ceiling, reach around for the outer edge of that foot, behind the knee, onto the thigh, or peace fingers around your big toe. But again, we make sure shoulder blades aren't hunched up, neck is long, shoulders flat. Right hand onto your right hip. Ground your tailbone into the mat. Take a few breaths here, really opening up into that left hip. Maybe the groin as well, inner thigh on the left side. 2 more breaths. And 1 more inhale. And exhale. Release that foot down to the mat. We're going to come back to that bridge pose that we started with. So walk both feet in towards your glutes, knees in alignment with your hips, ankles right under your knees. Take a breath here. Remember that gluing down of your lower back towards the mat. Belly draws into your spine. As you exhale, start to press into the feet and roll your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And then lifting 1 vertebrae at a time. Maybe you stay hands onto the mat. Maybe you interlace your hands and walk your arms back underneath the body, pressing into the outer edges of those hands. Neck is long. Keep that space between chin and chest so you can breathe deeply here. Pressing into both feet. Gentle squeeze of the glutes to lift those hips a little higher. Take 1 more breath. And exhale, untuck the shoulders if you've got the bind. Release 1 vertebrae at a time. Walk those feet to mat width distance. Draw your knees into the center and place 1 hand on your belly, 1 hand on your heart. And breathe into the lower back here. Connecting once again with your breath. Linking mind, breath, body. Take 1 more inhale. And exhale. You can stay here with your knees bent, 1 hand to your heart, 1 hand to your belly. Or if you want to come into Shavasana, allow the arms to be long, palms facing up. And then sliding the legs out long on your mat. Allow the feet to fall to the edges. And just before you fully relax here, just untuck any parts underneath your body that need to be untucked. So your shoulder blades, maybe walk your hips out a little wider, maybe your glutes need untucking. And just find that you can really, really relax here and let everything melt into the mat. Gently tuck your chin towards your chest, lengthen through the neck. Your body is heavy. Every exhale, still letting go of anything that doesn't serve you. In this last posture, this is Shavasana, corpse pose. Our whole body is still, unmoving. The only thing that is moving is our breath. Bringing your awareness to those inhales and exhales. Noticing that cool air as it enters the body. The warm breath as it leaves. Staying with this attention, this focus on the breath as you allow your body to rest. Taking a big breath in. Sigh out, exhale. And then start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Drawing your knees up to your chest when you're ready. Oh, that's a nice click. Squeezing knees in, rocking side to side. And you can always stay as long as you want in this reclined pose. You could come to seated meditation. Do whatever your body needs you to do. Otherwise, we're all going to meet at the top of our mats, once again in that easy seat, Sukhasana. So if you want to bring that cushion underneath your sit bones again, you can. Allowing the spine to be long, root down through your sit bones. Bringing hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Bowing your head to your hands and just reminding yourself again of that intention you set. Holding no judgment on your poses that you created today. We are always learning. That's why it's called a yoga practice. Taking a big breath in and sigh out. Namaste. Well done, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and you maybe learned a few postures if you're completely new to yoga. Obviously, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask me. Otherwise, I hope to see you all soon on your mat.